Hey kids, welcome to the Monday Movie Club. I don't know why we keep doing this. We're idiots, all of us. Today we're talking about the 1941 classic Citizen Kane. It's from 1941. It was Amy's choice. I'm Frank Gaffney. Here with us is Citizen Fenster, Annie King, Amy Goldman. Spoiler alert.
Don't look.
And Mark Wotitz Gartner. No picture, no likey. Amy, why Citizen Kane?
Well, it's the AFI and so many other movie things have said it's the best movie ever made. So I figured we should all watch it. I know Mark hadn't seen it and I hadn't seen it in 30 years, so I didn't remember it all. And of course, it was Charles Schulz's favorite movie. So in 1974, he drew a whole strip of Linus watching it. Lucy spoiled it for him. And then years later in the 90s, their brother Rerun was watching it and he screamed at her, "Don't spoil it." But anyway, the movie was spoiled for me when I had got my dad got me my Peanuts Treasury in 1975. And so from then on, I always knew Rosebud was the sled. So I figured, well, watch it. And I'm sure it might have been fun to watch it without knowing the big spoiler.
You said that so quickly, I heard Peanuts Gallery, Peanuts
I
Gallery.
did too, but I wasn't going to say it. Yeah.
Like, okay. All right. Well, yeah, Amy, you're right. Many critics, Paul, have chosen this as the best film of all times. And there's lots of reasons why. Here, I'm going to illustrate them. For one, the innovative use of the camera. There's so many beautiful shots, matte paintings, and some early versions of green screen and pretty amazing accomplishments. But Orson Welles said that the reason Citizen Kane turned out the way it did was pure ignorance. He only had a theater background, and he just assumed you could do everything that he had in his head, and so people around him just went, "Okay, let's try and do that." So this worked to his advantage because he didn't know what he didn't know, and so he had that theater eye for those dynamic compositions that you see in the movie. Really great. And this was his first film. He was 26 at the time. Let's say that again. His first film, and he was 26. That's amazing.
That's
Yeah, I
definitely
looked
one
up.
of the things I would have said, because 26 and making this movie and starring in it while you're
Yeah.
directing it.
Yeah.
Just
And
incredible.
he wrote the screenplay, and he looks older than 26, maybe because he's such a big guy with a deep voice. And I was very surprised when I read that too.
Well, it's
And
also so the makeup, lends itself to that as well throughout the whole film.
The
So,
makeup was incredible.
yeah. And well, when I was 26, I met Anthony, and that changed my whole life. So there you go.
There you go.
Orson Welles, right. He co-wrote, produced, directed, and starred in the movie as Charles Foster Kane. He was nominated, actually, as producer, director, and actor in the movie. And the movie got 9 nominations, but it only won one, original screenplay with Mank.
Yeah.
There are so many offshoots from this you could watch. RKO 182, Mank, obviously. What's the other one, Joel? There's
you mean
another
RKO 281?
281. I was so close.
You're thinking Blink 182?
Was I? Right. So but the screenplay isn't even very original, actually, because it's a very thinly veiled account of William Randolph Hearst's life. And boy was he pissed. He tried to stop the film every way he could. And he was pretty influential because he had all those newspapers, but I think one of the reasons it got so many Oscar nominations because the Academy was like,
I wouldn't necessarily say that because the other studio heads tried to buy the film from RKO. They wanted to have it burned and destroyed because Hearst was that powerful
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
time. So I don't know that the Academy Awards at that point were a finger to Hearst or just a misnomer at that, just a
Yeah,
mistake.
I mean, how did they get this right when they picked A Beautiful Mind as Best Picture in 2001?
Right.
Okay, the
Change.
structure of the film too was innovative for the time because most films before then went in a linear fashion, like you would assume, standard point A to point B in chronological order. But here we get to see his life story played out from four different people telling it, and we see four different segments of his life, and all of those gorgeous black and white scenery. Oh my gosh. Greg Tolan is the cinematographer. And I think he's at least half of the reason why this movie is great. And so he was ready to experiment. This is what I read. And no technique they used was exactly new. They borrowed liberally from D.W. Griffith, French films, and German expressionists. But the feel and the look of the film was so different from anything Hollywood was doing at the time. So I think that really surprised people and obviously impressed them. And all the camera movements and the deep focus, I mean, and some of it is cheated, like it'd be a painting instead of somebody in the background. But and this was one that, it really inspired directors and cinematographers for decades. And Joel, right? We studied this in film class. Professor Brown made us watch this movie and analyze it.
Yeah, it was one of the first films I saw in the first film class I ever took in college. So I mean, I
Yes.
already seen it, but it was,
I'm probably gonna say that. No, I'm definitely gonna say it, but that I probably first saw it in the film class.
mm,
And so many great sequences, like the instead of having long drawn out scenes to show their marriage dissolving, he uses that ingenious montage of the couple having breakfast, and as their marriage worsens, they get further and further apart on the table.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Amazing that he even thought of this. And so we see that as the passage of time, and of course the makeup changes as well. And you get a very honest look at this sad marriage. Um, and it was also very effective. And I don't know if it's unprecedented, but in making this terrible person interesting. I mean, you were invested in him, even though he turned out to be pretty disagreeable by the end. He's a very complicated man, Charles Foster Kane, and I love the idea that every single thing he did was related to his childhood, and and him trying to rectify the hurt that he felt as a child. And deep down, we all want to be loved. That's so wrong. It's
Love
pretty
you.
basic. It's pretty basic, but it's all right there. Okay, but what really keeps Citizen Kane on the top of all those lists is the audacity of what they accomplished for 1941. It's a marvel. The storyline, the structure, the performances. Orson Welles, his charisma is off the charts. That first section of the movie, I'm like, oh my God, he's so adorable. And it's, and he had such a reputation coming from the Mercury Theater Project that RKO just said, go ahead, do what you want. So he was able to use all the actors from his theater company to make this movie. And they're all so great.
Yeah, Mark, did you recognize Joseph Cotton? Now you've seen two movies.
Shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
two movies
absolutely.
he did with Joseph Cotton.
I kept thinking that he was maybe the killer because of you, Joel, because of that movie. Yeah, no, I reckon I read about it before, so yeah, I knew exactly who he was.
And watching his first monologue when he's in the old folks' home, it's such a perfect combination of great writing and great acting. He just nails that scene. And of course, Rosebud certainly has become legendary. and how great that the ending was. They never found out. They never solved the riddle. And it goes in the furnace and you see Rosebud. And so it remains a mystery to everyone. Just great. So if you haven't seen it, you really must see it. It is a masterpiece, and it's and for me, maybe not Mark, as entertaining as any movie on this list. I've seen it dozens of times, and it certainly has a place in film history. It created and advanced techniques and styles that really changed the film industry and film itself for decades to come. So I love this movie. This is my third week in a row. I'm going to say it's a 4-star movie for me. I love this movie. Okay, Mark, you didn't like the film, but could you at least appreciate it?
Yeah, I never said I didn't like it. I just, but unlike
Come
the
on, you
AF,
called it Citizen Pain, admit it.
There's a pain.
I got that from Danielle. She stopped watching halfway through. She was like, "I'm done." No, but unlike the AFI and you, Frank, this is not a 4-star movie for me. No, it is not. But it also wasn't painful. I guess my only problem was it took me 3 sittings to get through, and it felt like it was way longer than it was. So that's my real dig at it. Having said that, yes, I appreciated it. This is another one. I want to thank Amy and I want to thank this group that I never would have watched, even though it's kind of always been on the list, you know. So I'm very glad I did get through it. I watched before I started watching it. I went on IMDb and I watched the trailer. If you haven't done that, just watch the trailer. Orson Welles comes off as such a cocky douche. I didn't like him immediately, and I kind of set the tone of like, "Oh, am I going to like him?"
But
And I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly surprised because, as Frank said, he did have a lot of charisma in the movie. So maybe it was just the way. Sorry, go ahead, Joel.
but that's another thing. You bring up the trailer. The trailer is not what you would expect of a trailer because there's no footage from the film whatsoever in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just him. Hey, here's
like a
Joseph
scene,
Cotton.
right?
You don't know him, but you will soon. Whatever.
Yeah.
Weird, but yeah. What else? Yeah, he has a fantastic speaking voice, and I thought he did an absolutely great job of playing the character, all the different various stages. The makeup was great. He was great. He changed, personalities a little bit.
What was the commercials he did in the 80s for wine or
Paul
something?
Masson wine.
Paul Masson
We will
wine.
sell no wine before it's
Before
time.
it's time. Yes.
The only thing I knew him from was the Transformers movies before this, just so you know. And yeah, I love the time jumps, and as you said, the scene, the time lapse in the kitchen, that was fantastic. His second wife, Susan, her singing didn't annoy me, but she did. Holy crap, she yelled everything. I
Oh
got
my
it.
God, that one scene where she was screeching, it would remind
What's
me
in the
of
letter? Did you get
Raising
a
Arizona in the car.
Oh my God.
I was like,
That-
shut up. And she was the worst actress in the history of acting.
Agreed.
Hated her.
Yeah. She kind of spoiled it for me a bit there. Just yelling everything. But the opening of the movie. The opening movie. Nobody was in the room with him. How did anybody know that he said Rosebud? What did I miss?
You didn't miss anything. That's actually a bit of a hole in the story. Although Raymond, the butler, does claim
He says it later, but he
was
wasn't in the
hovering.
room.
we don't
Hovering.
actually see him there. So
Yeah.
there's
But
some
he
interesting.
said he was hovering.
Yeah,
Was
there's
he
some
a
interesting
creeper just
things.
hanging out in the corner?
Yeah. So we
That's
just
what-
have to
that's what
assume
butlers
he
do.
told people.
They buddle.
And they wait.
I was surprised to read that Orson Welles never fared well as a director, though, for his whole career. I was, at least from what I read on this, so that was surprising. I thought he was a great actor, and as you guys said, I mean, he very innovative. It was funny though, between him and Joseph Cotton, they're both like 6'2", 6'3", in a world where everyone else is like 5'7", 5'8". So their height difference, I don't know if everybody else, I noticed it right away. Everything they're doing is, never mind the camera looking up at them, they're looking down at everyone else, not just the camera. So I thought that was interesting. That's it for me. I'm gonna go 3 stars. Even though, like I said, I'm never gonna watch this again, but it has historical significance. I really did enjoy parts of it. I just, as a whole story, too slow. It's not a Mark movie. Because I thought of giving it, first I was like, 2.5. Then I was like, all right, you know what, 2.75. I'm going 3 stars.
All right. Annie King. Had you seen it before?
Never.
Never.
No, 4 years ago, I said I would watch it on your Facebook post.
I'm glad you actually caught up to it now.
Yes, so thank you, Amy, for finally getting me to watch it. I actually feel like sometime very soon in my future, I need to take a film course. Because I always feel like, what am I missing here? And I feel like I'm missing something. So I never get all the little nuances and everything. And I watched it, and Danny and I, we always watch it together, the movie. And I looked at him, and then we were like, okay, like,
Check it off, done.
So yes, a lot of the things that you guys mentioned already. Yeah, his second wife was I was like, oh, just please stop, And I thought that scene where he destroyed her room was really cool, like just.
I know, for me, that scene, I was just thinking, we have to get this in one take, Orson. Just do the whole thing. Don't worry about it. Just do whatever you want. But we're only doing one take.
Yes. And yeah, for some reason, I always knew Rosebud was the sled. Maybe it was from the Peanuts too, because so it wasn't a surprise, but it was a surprise that they never figured it out. That was.
Yeah, me too.
Surprise, yeah. So, but I would go with 3.25.
Okay. I think part of it too, and I know I always say this, but I feel like to really appreciate a movie like this, you need to see it more than once.
Yeah.
No,
I know
it's
you're
true.
never going to watch it again, but right, Joel? I mean, we've seen it dozens of times, so we can appreciate where he was going, how he accomplished what he accomplished. But even this year with Everything Everywhere All at Once, first time, I thought it was going to be confusing, and then when it got to the end, I'm like, oh, okay, now that all makes sense to me. So seeing it the second time, I found I laughed a lot more because I really understood the humor of the movie and where it was going. So it really does make a difference if you see it.
The Big Lebowski is very much like that as well. So for those who haven't seen it yet, we're coming up in a month or two. Watch it now and then watch it again in 4 weeks.
Watch it twice.
There you go.
All right, Aim. So what? You saw it 4 years ago, you said? What?
No, like
40
when
years
I
ago?
was watching all the movies, like in the
All right.
90s,
Classic
remember?
movie.
And I even
Yeah,
said on
you had a
on your
Goldman list.
yeah, and I even said on your post that I watched the Maltese Falcon, all that kind of stuff. So I just felt like I needed to see, and I felt like we should all watch a movie like this. So really, that's the only reason. And Annie, I too went to film school, which they seem to forget, but I don't know what the hell I studied there.
It's more like you seem to forget.
I know. I was too young, didn't care enough to appreciate. I would love to go back now for sure.
Drunk all the time.
Oh no,
No, she wasn't drunk
Oh,
then.
I know.
She only turned drunk after working at Curtain Call.
No. Oh yeah. That's Mike Lamone. I'm looking at you.
Yeah, like he's watching.
Yeah, right. I did enjoy it a lot. It definitely isn't a 4-star movie for me. Maybe if I remembered anything from film school, it would be. I was thinking I would love to see, but God forbid it's ever done, and I hope it won't be, and I know it won't be, a remake of this movie with modern acting. Because that is what always pulls me out of these old movies is the type acting, and that woman was horrible. And there were other moments where, oh my God, what's his name? Who was a named person? He was the chubby guy, and his hair was like this at one point, like they pulled his hair down into his face, and he was killing me with his faces and his acting. So I would love to see a modernized version. So for that reason, I'm have to go with 3, and for its importance, I'll go to 3.5.
I have to say, as the one in control of this Zoom at this point, your comment about a modernized version, I just wanted to go click. She's gone.
I know. I said, no, I not only did I say it'll never happen, I said, I hope it never happens. I would never want that to happen, ever.
Oh, but they're talking about a remake of Vertigo with Robert Downey Jr. at this point. So,
God.
yeah.
Wow. But nothing will ever touch Citizen Kane. No studio is ever going to remake it. And they shouldn't. So, if I think of more things while you guys are talking, even though almost everybody's done now. And seen. Oh, one thing I did think during the movie was how beautiful Orson Welles was. I didn't remember him being so good looking. And then Joel, I read in the IMDb trivia, I'm sorry, that he totally did that on purpose. It was all makeup and filtering, and he was never that good looking. And he said it. He's like, I never looked that good. I was like, wow, that was really interesting for 1941. They purposely made him look better than he even looked.
How did they accomplish that?
Yeah.
I need some of that.
I have to look while Joel is talking. I'll be like this, looking at what I read.
All right, Joel, put these idiots in their place.
Well, I as much as we love to do that and joke about that, I'm not going to do that because I do understand this is not a film for everybody. At the end of the day, it has a history of hype per se by those of us who do find it to be a 4-star, almost flawless film that is a masterpiece of cinematic something. So.
Crap.
I could see that actual quote on the box for the movie.
Yeah, masterpiece of
Cinematic.
cinematic something. What was it? What was that stupid movie with?
You know, and you said too, Joel, but we also have history with this movie.
Yeah, no,
that's a big part of it.
yeah, I had seen the movie before going to film school once, and I enjoyed it. Film school kind of, made me
Illuminated it.
yeah,
Illuminated.
appreciate it even more. I've seen it dozens of times. This is actually watching it this time was the first time I've seen it on an iPad in a hotel room. Which
And
is
it still looks good.
it does. I'm always noticing things like I've never noticed that before. And in this case, we've been mentioning the makeup and stuff. And for some reason, because the iPad's like here, I'm like, oh wow, okay, wow, the makeup really is amazing in this movie.
One of the things I noticed, because yes, I was watching it on my computer, and I had headphones on, and the things I really noticed with the audio was there were so many times when the tone changed where the shot was in the big room as opposed to a close-up.
Yes.
You could hear the difference in the audio. I'm like,
yeah,
that's they wouldn't have that today.
No.
Yeah.
But it's not even things like that. I know we've been kind of bashing was Dorothy Comingore as
Yes, Comingore.
yeah.
How do
so-
you not like her name, Mark?
Right.
She comes in.
I think that I
Well,
think
that explains why
acting-
she never had a career.
Yeah, well, she didn't after this was her biggest thing. She wasn't one of the Mercury players. Neither was the other wife, who's the actress I can't remember right now.
Ruth Warwick.
Yeah. I think her acting is terrible, whether it's on purpose or it for me it works within things because it makes her to be out the shrew that he really needed
Exactly.
for that part of the story. Yes, it's annoying, yes, it's shrill, but I think it for
But
me
that also helps. It also helps you to like him because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this woman. Get
right
rid of
like
her.
what did he see in her after the whole first night with the toothache and the shadow puppets? There's nothing there.
But even her accent kept reminding me of Singing in the Rain.
Yeah. I can't stand it.
Mark.
There for me there's like all these little touches throughout the film that not everybody notices things along those lines, like when Kane is signing over his stuff to Thatcher at the end of Thatcher, I think it's at the end of Thatcher's story. Orson Welles gives why am I blanking? I'm exhausted. Gives Thatcher these looks. There's like 3 of them in that scene that are just brilliant. They are, and they're so subtle and slight. You really have to notice them, but they say a lot about where his mindset is at as a character at that point in his story.
Right.
And there's other moments like that as well. I love the fact that this has that, and I'm going to use the comparison which technically comes later, but it has that Rashomon kind of vibe to it,
Right.
because you don't really get to know Charles Foster Kane through his own story. We have that omnipotent third person beginning, which you have to question by the end, because is it omnipotent third person, or is that really Raymond, who we're coming back to at the end a little bit when he says,
Right.
I was in the room. But you're learning about him through Thatcher's diary and through Leland and through Bernstein and through
And the newsreel,
yeah,
which was funny because it made me think of Up.
right. Yeah, well, because it condenses all that stuff into a nice little package.
Yeah.
It is a brilliant movie for me. I had my Temple film group actually picked it for our next meeting, and so I was kind of like, oh, all right, if I can time this, maybe it'll be timed right. It's not. I have no problem sitting down and watching it again in 3 weeks before that, because I
Could have
love.
told us, Joel, we moved the other movie for Amy. We could have moved this movie for you.
Well, we talked about it briefly and then we didn't, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. I love this movie enough that I would watch it again this afternoon if I needed to. It's just, I love watching it. It just really is very magnetic for me. I'm always noticing different stuff, and I just get engrossed in it. And I can't imagine sitting down and stopping the movie and going to get a donut or going to the bathroom or coming back a day later to finish it. It's not one of those movies for me.
3 times.
I'm amazed that it took you that long. This movie just flows for me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, maybe it's the repeat viewings.
I do think that.
If I could go higher than 4 stars, I would. But it's
I did for Up.
yeah, that's true. You
Yeah.
did. But I don't want to be introduce more chaos into our rating system. So.
Yeah.
I have questions.
Okay.
Why? What did I miss? Why was little Charlie sent to live with the guy?
His
because of
mom
his
was like so
father?
ready to get him out of the house.
So he would have a better life.
Yeah. There's hints of the fact that that the father might be abusive. There's a little bit of that in the subtext, I think. And you can read that however you need to, but it's definitely, she came across this mother lode of money. The bank bought it from her, and they're going to take care of him somewhere else because he'll have a better life than he will with the 2 of them.
Okay. And my other question is,
yes,
go
that was
ahead.
the
Wait,
first one.
Annie.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Annie, go ahead.
Which, by the way, I recognize the name, but I couldn't connect the person to the person
Bewitched?
I knew.
Bewitched?
You mean Agnes Moorehead?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I had no
I
idea it was her
know.
until I read it.
Yeah, I said I know who that is, but I can't I couldn't connect her to the mother.
Yeah, you're like, who's Agnes Moorehead?
Yeah. She looked
It's
nothing
the
like.
Yeah.
She was.
I think she looked exactly the same to me.
Oh, wow.
She was a lot younger at that point. And
Right.
she was
25
she was
years
one of the
old.
40
Mercury
years
Theater
old.
actors. Huh?
It was her movie debut and she was 40.
Wow.
And the other question was when he was shipped off, there was a sled sitting there getting buried in the snow. And I'm thinking, oh, he left Rosebud buried in the snow. So how did he end up having it later on?
Well, if you remember, they mention, and you really have to be paying attention,
Like that.
that all of the stuff from his mother's place was shipped to Xanadu at one point. So
I might have heard that, but I thought, but the sled was just lost in the snow. But then, snow does melt and they'd be like, oh, wait, his fucking sled is here. Get rid of it.
right.
All right, that makes
Put
sense.
it back in the house.
It's
They put
like
it
when a
back.
dog poops in the snow. You think, well, nobody's ever going to step in it. It's covered in snow.
Right, but they, they probably didn't have a lot to begin with, and they kept everything just in case. And that's one of the interesting things is we know nothing at all about what happens to his parents.
Yeah.
After this, and maybe they had another kid. That's why they had the sled. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, he was a crazy hoarder. That's all I know. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
But we also know nothing about his childhood growing up, if he ever went sledding again or
Correct. You don't see him really again.
Never went sledding again.
Right.
And that's the thing that bothered me, though, that the fact I would have preferred if he never, excuse me, the fact that he had Rosebud, the way he says it at the end is like, "Oh, I miss my childhood," but he has the sled. I would
I
have thought
thought that too. That's
he
what
would
added
have
to
been
my
missing it.
confusion.
Think about this, Mark. What is in your house right now? Do you have things in your house and you know where everything is and what everything is?
No,
Okay.
not everything.
So wouldn't it be
Imagine a mansion
you've been to my house and
or
you
Joel's house. Yeah, exactly.
But
But
if that
also
is,
when he looks at the snow globe and the house in the snow, and that
that
brings
triggers
back
it.
that memory of his childhood, and that makes him
And he
remember.
could have certainly just been thinking of childhood as opposed to just the sled. It was the whole moment of sledding and having fun in
Yeah.
the snow.
yeah, yeah.
And very much, oh my God, that iconic shot of the globe rolling down the stair and then crashing and breaking exactly the right moment.
Amazing how he did that.
Amazing, definitely amazing. All right, so Joel and I. Oh, Joel, you're not
I just
done.
want to add one more quick thing to something Mark had said earlier.
How good Liev Schreiber was as Orson Welles in RKO 281.
Sure, there's that, or we could go with Maurice LaMarche doing the most amazing vocal impressions of Orson Welles over the course of his career. That's why Pinky and the Brain sound like,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Um,
Who's Maurice LaMarche?
there's a great clip from the TV series The Critic. I don't know if you remember that with John Lovitz.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
look up The Critic Orson Welles Peas commercial, you should get a very funny clip with him
PES?
that's I find hysterical, but I won't spoil it.
All right, Aim, look it up and we'll watch it after we're done.
Okay.
Got
But to make a quick point to something Mark had said earlier about Orson Welles' directing career, Orson Welles is also one of those directors, and we've mentioned it before, that
Oh my God.
his films are what?
This is just
Stop
a freeze frame of him like this.
Oh yeah. His every one of his films are interesting, but he never really made another film as great as Citizen Kane. You know,
That is kind of bad, isn't it? When the first thing you do, I mean, like John Travolta doing Grease and Saturday Night Fever, and then what?
right, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, but
But
how much later was that?
but again, it's not just it's we're thinking about Citizen Kane now, but again, when it was released, it was kind of a flop. So everything he did was kind of a flop until maybe later on. So that was very interesting.
There's
Well, a flop maybe at the box office, but
Yes.
always artistically well regarded.
yeah, well, and there are numbers to kind of back up and disprove the concept of what kind of a flop it actually was at the box office. The problems for Orson Welles was that he was too big for his own britches. He actually started shooting the film before production officially began on the film. They had given him test stuff to do. You know, if you want to do a makeup test or a costumes test, he actually started shooting the movie using that budget for the tests. And you know, the people at RKO were kind of like, you can't do that, you know, but that goes to things that
he didn't know. Yeah. He's
So
like,
Yeah, but I read that. Yeah, I read the trivia in IMDb, and it said more that he told them they were just in rehearsals for the first 2 weeks because he didn't want them to bug him.
yeah, exactly.
And I also love the fact that he said he put in the original script that all those chorus girls were going to be at a brothel because he knew that the Hays Code wouldn't allow that, and he did it to distract them so they wouldn't look too closely at other parts of the film that they may have had a problem with. So that was genius. And again, 26 years old, big balls. I'm sorry, that was impressive.
But here's the thing.
Unfortunately, his big balls also were his downfall.
Yeah, he got bit in the ass right with the next film. You know, the Magnificent Ambersons was taken away from him and re-edited by Robert Weiss at the behest of RKO. And he kind of was like, you know, that's one of the holy grails of film preservation. Can we reconstruct Orson Welles' original cut of the Magnificent Ambersons? And the answer is probably no. But
but also, you know, his ego got bigger than his talent.
Yeah,
that was the biggest problem.
Yeah, but again, everything he did after this is still interesting and worth watching. So,
including the Transformers.
Eh.
I'll say sure.
Mark, I love that movie.
Right?
The Third
Music.
Man, was that the one
The third man,
that
The
got, that was
Stranger.
another one that got re-edited
Yep.
according
Touch of
to,
Evil was another one that got re-edited.
that was the one.
Oh, you're thinking of that one? Okay.
Yes, I was thinking of that one, not Third Man, because he was only in The Third Man. He did
Correct.
direct. All right, well, that's it for us. Citizen Kane, again, you should watch it. Don't listen to them.
No,
It's
no, you should
available
watch it.
on.
I agree.
Oh, everybody says you should watch it.
Yeah.
Everybody should watch it. Annie, you agree? Everybody
Yes,
should- All right.
Just once though.
just so you can say you saw it.
Right.
No, I might sometime watch it again just to see what I've missed and stuff. I might do that. And if I take that film course, I bet you I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, definitely will. Okay, it's available on HBO Max if you have that service, or you could rent it from Vudu or Prime. And it was on TCM yesterday. So
And it is part of the Criterion Collection. It was
part of
the
the
first title they ever put out on Laserdisc back in 1984.
Wow.
Okay, so next time we are continuing our exploration of films from 1998, and we're going to watch The Truman Show, which was nominated for Best Director that year, but not Best Picture. And it's available on Philo with ads. Do with that what you will. I never
And you
recommend
do with it what you will. Before tomorrow, please.
And I never recommend watching a movie with ads. It's not the way it was meant to be watched. I'm Frank Gaffney. Go watch a movie.
And also with you in Vietnam.